Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Ustaz Muallim. My name is Nurul Syahimah binti Ibrahim from IC1204C1. So today my group members and I would like to present on certainty is not dispelled by doubt. Certainty, or as known as assurance, doubtlessness, validity and reliability, is defined as the state of being completely confident and having no doubt about something. In other words, certainty is basically meant as the feeling of doubtlessness of a person toward his or her own belief on something or the truth of a matter. In Arabic, the word certainty is known as yakin. Yakin refers to the feeling of faith and confidence towards something without any zone or doubt feeling to believe in it. In Al-Quran Surah Yusuf verse 36, Allah says, and most of them follow nothing but zon, which is conjecture. Indeed, conjecture doesn't satisfy the desire to determine anything from the truth, i'tiqad. Surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of what they do. This means that individuals who are more likely to follow things that are unsure on its truth will lead to doubt and unfavorable feelings. In fact, people who follow uncertainty things will be in the state of restlessness. In Islam, there are three stages of certainty, which are ilmul yakin, ainul yakin, and haqqul yakin. Ilmul yakin refers to the knowledge of certainty. This stage refers to the feeling of certainty of Allah's existence as the Almighty God as the result to certainty knowledge. In other words, anything that exists or happens in this world is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next, ainul yakin. Ainul yakin means the vision of certainty. This stage refers to when a person has passed the first stage, which is ilmul yakin. He or she will definitely feel certainty with the existence of Allah without feeling any doubt when they saw something happen in this world, such as the presence of planets as well as heavens and hell at the hereafter. Last but not least, haqqul yakin. Haqqul yakin means the final level of certainty gained through experience. This stage refers to a firm hold and stance on Islamic religion that the individual possesses in his or her life. This person realizes that the world is totally belongs to Allah as the one who owns everything inside and outside of the world, including the planets. Thus, certainty is very important in humans' life, especially to the Muslim people, as it gives a huge impact on how they think towards something, especially when it is related to religion and their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On top of that, we would like to discuss more about how certainty can be applied in the practice of humans' life.
My name is Siti Nuraisyah binti Islam. For this slide, I will explain about application of worship. Okay, for the first point, I will talk about worship. Within Islam, worship is interpreted as complete submission to Allah through obedience to His commands and avoidance of His prohibitions out of devotion, reverence, and honor. If an act or deed is implemented with sincerity and in compliance with the Sharia teachings, it is regarded as an act of worship. Certainty is one of the fundamental principles of Islam. Certainty in worshipping Allah can be defined as Muslims must hold the unwavering view that Allah Almighty is in control of everything in their life without having any doubt of Him. In the present era, we are shocked by the outbreak of global pandemic caused by the coronavirus or COVID-19, which affects the lives and economies of people around the world. Muslims are also affected by this as we have to face an unprecedented situation with uncertainty, fear and anticipation of loss. Therefore, various ways and steps needs to be applied by Muslims to overcome these problems. This is some of the application of worship. Firstly, Muslims need to strengthen their spiritual protection in order to survive a life filled with epidemics of infectious diseases. This is because we believe that this COVID-19 epidemic is a test from Allah to His servants, so that we just rely and hope on Him every time we struggle physically and mentally, feel doubtful, and even become fearful. This coincides with the verse 159 from Surah Al-Imran, which means, and when you have decided, then rely upon Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who rely upon Him. Reciting prayers, zikir, and salawat with sincerity can create a meaningful relationship with Allah and increase the certainty of the faith and souls in worshipping Him. Secondly, Muslims must take responsible action to prevent the coronavirus from spreading to others because it will make us more aware and careful in doing things. The precautionary action is also mentioned in the Al-Quran Surah An-Nisa verse 71, which means, "O you who believe, take your precaution." Among the acts committed are travel ban and implementation of quarantine and lockdown. It must be enforced because it is feared that outsiders and locals will carry the epidemic virus that endangers the lives of others. While staying at home, we should optimize our time doing something useful and to be closer to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala by doing istighfar. Istighfar will not only purify our soul but give us a sense of relief as Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will grant His servants solutions to all their problems and provide sustenance. Last but not least, Muslims should maintain good hygiene as it can reduce the rate of virus infection from spreading it to us. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, mosques and surahs could not operate and open as usual. Even so, they can open it conditionally by following the standard operating procedures or the short form SOP set by the government. Muslims who pray in mosques and surahs need to clean themselves before and after entering the place to ensure they are not infected with the coronavirus. This coincides with verse 108 of Surah At-Tawbah, which means Allah loves those who purify themselves. As a result, Muslims feel reassured and always certain to worship Allah without feeling anxious and restless. That's all from me. I will pass the next slide to another member.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Nur Azmira binti Azmi. Application in medical. Among the halal and haram issues in medicine that have been a topic of heated discussion until today is the question of medicine containing unclean or haram elements such as alcohol, drugs, substance from pigs, cattle and the likes. Consumers in Malaysia, especially Muslim consumers, are very concerned about these issues as it involves the halal and haram question, which are the basic things in religious life and should be taken care of by every Muslim individual. Okay, the issues. For example, in the context of vaccination, doubt arises on the component of the material used in vaccines. There are several accusations in some quarters that there is a pig DNA vaccine. All the allegations in this matter are nothing but doubt without solid evidence to confirm them. On the other hand, what is reassuring is the sanctity of vaccination based on the assurance given by Deputy Minister of Health, Datuk Seri Dr. Helmi bin Yahya in the Dewan Rakyat on the absence of pig DNA in all 12 vaccines used in the National Immunization Program for Children, and therefore the status of such vaccination is halal. The conclusion. It can be highlighted that seeking treatment and medication is highly recommended in Islam, as shown from various hadiths stated above. Thus, vaccine as a method of preventing is acceptable and recommended in Islam. Therefore, the vaccine has been granted it is priority through an authoritative explanation by expert and can be used by Muslims without hesitation. Thus, any doubt about the purity of a vaccine without solid evidence should be ignored in this case because the evidence is a clear and tangible certainty about something in a way that no one can doubt or even deny.
I'm Nurul Nadia binti Dunia will explain about application in Sharia case. In this case, there is burden of proof. According to Muhammad Ismail, burden of proof, there are two parties involved in every judicial trial, which is plaintiff and defendant. So, if someone claims something from another, he must prove it because the defendant are considered as free liability. For example, if a person is accused with the crime of robbery but there is no evidence to prove it, so he is considered innocent. The principle used this case is the norm instead of non-liability, which means one cannot be considered liable and the condition should be remain like it is until proven otherwise. Next, the defendant is presumed as free liability until the claimant proves the contrary. So it is important to differentiate who is the defendant and plaintiff, as one of them must bear the responsibility of proof and whose evidence will present first. The principle derived from the maxim is the burden of proof lies on him who alleges. But the jury's outcome after a long discussion on the subject is the creation of complicated rules which must limit the freedom of the judge's inquiries.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nasuha Amnee binti Amdan and I will continue about certainty in Islamic financial. What is Islamic financial? Islamic financial is a type of financing activities that must comply with Sharia, Islamic law. The concept can also refer to the investment that are permissible under Sharia. There are three types of financing arrangements. One is mudarabah, which is a profit and loss sharing financial agreement where one partner, financial or government, provides the capital to another partner, labor provider or mudarib, who is responsible for the management and investment of the capital. Number two is musyarakah, a form of a joint venture where all partners contribute capital and share the profit and loss on a pro rata basis. And lastly is ijarah. In this type of financial agreement, the lessor who must own the property lessor the property to the lessee in exchange for a stream or rental and purchase payment ending with the transfer of property ownership to the lessee. Next, certainty in Islamic financial. An interesting way to access the liquidity of existing mortgage practice is to look at whether the system promotes clarity or doubt. The second basic legal maxim called upon to do this is al-yakin la yazulu bil ishaq. Certainty cannot be repelled with doubt. According to Al-Jarqah, there is no element of it to which this maxim does not apply, hence its significance is limitless. The presumption of legality and permissibility of trading is settled under Islamic business law. A sale in whatever form is certain to be valid in muamalah. To put it another way, the fundamental principle of trade legitimacy, unless the law expressly specifies differently, the general choice is feasibility as the scope of commercial transaction widens. Aside from that, there is nothing in them that is prohibited. According to Ibn Taymiyyah, Allah Most High never forbidden a contract that benefits Muslims and does not harm them. There is no fraud. This invariably includes major mortgage contracts, money exchange and money transfer. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Su'aidah binti Abdul Rahman from IC12041. Okay, and lastly is conclusion. Every matter, whether it's worldly affairs of the hereafter, one should adhere to the original law that is believed and remove the doubts that disturb the mind. This method, in fact, clarifies that it's become a demand to every individual to leave all doubts and doubts in life to a soothing conviction. This is coincides with a hadith narrated by Al-Hasan bin Ali radhiyallahu anhuma that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, which means leave the things that doubt you to the things that do not doubt you. Indeed, the truth is tranquility and the lie is doubtful. Hadith riwayat At-Tirmizi. Okay, if there are any doubts, we must return to refer to the signs of fiqh because it is a sign that describes the method used by the mujtahid imams in establishing Islamic law from the text. Based on the text as well, they take the illah that are basis of law and look for the maslahah that is purpose of Sharia law, which is explained and indicated by the Al-Quran and Sunnah. This is because if we want to get sweetness in the worship of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and in everything that human beings do daily for the well-being of life in this world and the hereafter. That's all from me. Thank you.